Hi, I'm Diane Nelson. Welcome to Meet the Candidate of Harrison Township 2020. This project is a joint effort between myself as the Senior Center Coordinator and Melissa Goins, the Library Director for Harrison Township. The program is designed to bring information to the voters of Harrison Township about the people who currently serve the township and others from our community who want to. The library nor the Senior Center endorses any candidates. The only goal of this project is to provide voters with information.
We're talking to Larry Tomenello, candidate for treasurer. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Larry.
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
Good.
Good. So, yeah, Larry Tomenello. I've been a resident of the township since 1991. I've worked at a large insurance company downtown, Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I've been there for 45 years. I am an IT manager, and I manage a multi-million-dollar data center, both on the operations and infrastructure side. So I handle all kinds of hardware, software, installations, deal with costs and buying equipment, selling equipment, balancing budgets, things like that. I have a wife and two boys. My wife is Susan. She's also an IT manager. And I have two boys, Michael and Eric. Michael just graduated from De La Salle this year. That was very interesting with the social distancing. And Eric is 16, so he's still at De La Salle. I got involved with the township, actually with the neighborhood groups, the Huron Point Homeowner Association. I am a resident of the Huron Point Homeowners Association. I live out on the point. And back in 1990, I got involved with the Homeowner Association. From there, I went on to, I was asked to hold a position of Planning Commission. So I started Planning Commission back in 1999 for Harrison Township. I've held the role of chairman for the Planning Commission. And I'm still on the Planning Commission. So we've gone through already 2 master plans that we've created. And we're going to be introducing probably our 3rd coming up very shortly. And that's basically our master vision of the township. I was elected to trustee in 2006. I was re-elected for trustee in 2010 and then 16 as well. So I was elected 3 times to trustee. And now with my career coming to an end at Blue Cross and Blue Shield, I'm ready to move on and make a difference in the treasurer's office.
Okay, so what originally prompted you to run for treasurer?
Well, you know, there's a lot of things I think that can be improved. I'm an IT guy, so I'm looking at things and things I've done throughout my career. We at Blue Cross and Blue Shield have gotten rid of a lot of paper. It's very cost effective. We've gone to electronic. For those of you who have Blue Cross or any other health insurance, you get explanation of benefits. Many people, approximately 60%, are getting those electronically. So with that being said, one of my goals is to look at electronic billing and looking at improving the electronic, actually the payments. So, getting into the 21st century, looking at things like PayPal, making it easier for people to make online payments. The other thing that I'd like to do in the treasurer's office is being in the private sector for 45 years, working from 8 to 5. It was always hard for me to get to the township. And when I got to the township, they were closed. One of the things I'm looking at, I'd like to look into, is actually operating 1 day a week late at the township to help those people in the public sector. Not everyone can take a day off to come into the township to do their necessary business. The other thing that I'm very interested in doing is I'm looking to improve our cable service. So the cable companies pay us, the township, to improve or keep improving, so to update and improve all of our video services. Our video services are over 16 years old. We still have half-ray tubes in our projection room. Very antiquated equipment. A lot of people have issues with sound, with video. And here's the whole thing is with the new normal, with people working at home or working not in the workplace, you know, carrying the like this Zoom session, things like that. If we can improve the video, the audio, and make the equipment at the expense of our cable companies, improve the equipment where people can zoom into our meetings, or maybe we have some, you know, direct web interface that they can come into the meeting. So that's going to be another one, and that also falls under the treasurer's office. So video, audio falls under treasurer. So I really want to improve that as well. I want to be able to make it so if somebody physically can't come to a meeting, they can zoom in, they can web in, they can interface in, and trying to make it so we can make it as convenient as possible for everyone.
Good. What do you see as general concerns for the township, and how do you plan to address them?
So let's talk about, I guess, problems. Boy, that's sort of an onion to be peeled. But first of all, let me say, when I talk to residents in the township, many times, you know, they say, I love Harrison Township. I love the small town feel. I love, you know, the rural areas and things like that. But, and it's that but that always gets us, right? And that but is, and I'm going to name a few, and how I'm going to fix them, you know, that's sort of that's another double-edged sword question. But the roads, naturally, I hear about roads all the time. The infrastructure. So when I talk about infrastructure, I'm talking about the water and sewer infrastructure that's underground, that's over 50 years old, that is progressively failing. Big expense. And then I think the third problem that I think that we need to look at is the way that the new normal, or COVID-19, is going to affect not only Harrison Township, but many of the municipalities throughout the township. What's going to happen is there's going to be, we receive as a township, and every township and city gets this, state revenue sharing. So based on the amount of people, based on the amount of income, the state actually gives us every year, and which goes into our general fund, state revenue sharing. The word on the street, or the information that we've been receiving, is that state revenue sharing, with a lot of the incentives and whatnot that have been doled out to the residents, that's going to be reduced. And actually, I've heard numbers for Harrison Township almost up to $250,000. So that's a big hit, because that goes right into our general fund. And our general fund, you know, that takes care of things like our operating expenses. You got to keep in mind that, you know, we pay a very low amount for our operating expenses. Most of the taxes are fire, police, zoo, DIA, schools. That's the majority of the taxes. So we've been running on a flat operating budget for many years, at least over 10 years. So if our general fund takes a hit, we're going to have to look at creative ways to make up that difference. So I think, although roads are very important, infrastructure is very important, I think, you know, that low-hanging fruit is our state revenue sharing, how it's going to affect us, and then, you know, how are we going to react as a board to make sure that, you know, we are effectively, efficiently, and responsibly making sure that we can live through that, or in not, you know, whole thing is we don't want to raise taxes. So how do we get there? How do we make it work? How do we make it better through the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay. What are your involvements in community affairs?
So actually, I have quite a few involvements. I've been a part of the Michigan Special Olympics, Wirtz Warriors since 1990. I've been to state winter games for the last 30 years. I was thinking about that today. I've been involved in state winter games for a long time. I sit on the board of the Special Olympics Wirtz Warriors as well. I've sat on the board for about the last 16 years. So what the group does is naturally we manage and we work with and raise funds for the Michigan Special Olympic Winter Games. Wirtz Warriors is an organization that was started by Vic Wirtz. So those of you who are younger than me will probably not remember the name Vic Wirtz, but he was a Detroit Tiger baseball player. He was a Macomb County resident. And back in 1982, he wanted to start something and give back to the community. So what he did is he approached Special Olympics and he said, hey, look, could I do something to fund the Michigan Special Olympics Winter Games? And at that point, Special Olympics and Wirtz Warriors became a partnership. And ever since then, we've been funding the Special Olympic Games to the tune of, I think, over $14 million. So a lot of money. And I spend a lot of time, not only from a board perspective, fundraising. I go to events. I attend local events from the different areas throughout the county. And I also do a lot of my fundraising up north in the Gaylord area. So I attend fundraisers and events up in that area as well. So I participate with the athletes as much as I can. That's where the reward comes through, and that's what makes it all worthwhile. The other thing is, when I was elected in 2016, we lost our permanent, Frank Capel, he was a permanent trustee who was working on Parks and Rec. So the supervisor approached me and said, hey, look, because we're losing Frank, we'd like you to work on Parks and Rec. So I said, I don't want to say reluctantly, but it's just like, okay, here's another thing on my plate. But I did, and actually I partnered. So Brian Brian Batkins, and myself have been running the Parks and Rec department since 2016. Parks and Rec, for those residents who don't know, is not funded by any taxes. It's all voluntary. And over the years, what we've done is we've increased the events from 2, and I believe we're up to 6 or 7 events. And although that may not sound like a lot, especially if we compare that to maybe Macomb Township or to Clinton Township, we have a volunteer staff. And a lot of the times it comes down to Brian and I who are the volunteers. And I should say that because the library has got involved, the beautification committee has got involved. We've had some residents also get involved and helped us through this. And the big thing is we've been soliciting, over the last 2 years, we've been soliciting our local businesses. And they've been so fantastic. And I don't want to mention it because there's so many and I'll forget somebody, but they've been very, very generous in their donations. And you know what? Every event we put on is absolutely free. We do have an event, speaking of, and I'm going to use this as a plug. We do have on the 24th of July, because we reduced all of our activities to 0. We wanted to do something for the residents. So we are having a drive-in movie at Tucker Park, July 24th. Tickets are available. They're free, but it's a drive-in movie on a 25-foot screen. So if anybody sees this and has kids or even the adults, come out and have a great time. And yeah, so those 2 things keep me busy. I do a lot of diversity volunteering downtown, since I work downtown at the St. Francis Center. So we actually serve both breakfast and lunch. Not a lot, but we do it maybe 6 times a year at the St. Francis Center, and that's very rewarding too. There's a lot of people that really need our help.
Thanks, Larry. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to add?
No. Well, let me just think for a minute. So getting back to COVID-19, and why I'm running for treasurer, the other thing that we need to look at, because of that, going back to the, close to $250,000 shortfall, is as a treasurer, what my goal is to look at the interest income. So, we need to figure out how much money's coming in and how much money's going out every month. We need to look to make sure that we can invest that money smartly. And even like a 16th basis point or 1/8 basis point, if we can get that on the amount of money that runs through the township as interest income, that's more money in our pocket. So that's one way I'm going to look for a deficit, or to eliminate that deficit that's coming at us pretty fast, like a railroad train. But that's one of my first things to do, is to look at money's coming in, money's coming out, trying to figure out how we can move funds around. And I do want to say this, we are restricted by Public Act 20. Public Act 20, actually, for public treasury dollars, you have to follow that act, and it does restrict you. There are a lot of restrictions. But again, even with that, there's ways we can make a little bit of money. If we can make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more than we were before by moving money around, I want to do that. I think the last thing I do want to say is I am very proud to be endorsed by our Drain Commissioner, Candace Miller. And I'm also very proud to be endorsed by our Harrison Township firefighters. Mr. Forlini, who is a former state rep, and Mr. Verkes have both also endorsed me for my candidacy to Harrison Township Treasurer.
Very good. Thank you so much for telling us about yourself, Larry, and for offering to serve in our community. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
I'm Melissa Goins. Thank you for tuning in to meet the candidates of Harrison Township 2020. Don't forget to vote at the polls on August 4th and November 3rd, or with an absentee ballot. All voting information for Harrison Township can be found at htvotes.com. That's HT for Harrison Township, votes.com.